Government and political system.
Hello everyone, we are Group 4 and we are excited to be here today to our presentation on topic is government and political system. So I'm Nikita Moran Elungan, is moderator and my group member namely.
Okay, so hello everyone, my name is Ananda Vanella Mumi.
Hello everyone, my name is Eunika Tengkel.
Hello, I'm Dian Sastri.
So the content in this topic is divided into 8 parts. Namely, there are introduction, Australia government system, Australia government structure, level of government in Australia, main political parties, current political issue in Australia, conclusion and references. Before entering the content of the previous material, I will explain what the general description of the country of Australia and the system of government that is influential in the world. First, Australia is a country located on the continent of Australia and is a Commonwealth country with a parliamentary system of government. The country has a stable democratic system, developed economic, and is an active member in various international organizations such as the United Nations, G20, and ASEAN Regional Forum. The United Kingdom parliamentary system favors a closer relationship between the executive and legislature, where the Prime Minister as head of government comes from Parliament, creating coalitions that reflect the diverse interests of society and increasing political participation. In comparison, Indonesia's system of government is a presidential system where the president functions as both head of state and head of government, with a clear separation of power between the executive, legislature, and judiciary to prevent abuse of power.
So now we move to Australian government system. Australia operates under a system known as a constitutional monarchy and parliamentary democracy. This means that it combines a hereditary monarchy with a parliamentary system. The country's government is based on a constitution that outlines the structures and powers of the government, ensuring a balance between tradition and democratic principles. Okay, so we're gonna talk about type of government, which is constitutional monarchy and parliamentary democracy. Constitutional monarchy is a form of government in which a hereditary monarch, king or queen, acts as the head of state within the parameters of the constitution. The constitution is a set of laws and principles that outlines the powers and duties of the government and the rights of the people. In the system, the monarch's powers are largely ceremonial and they must act in accordance with the constitution and the laws of the land. And the second, parliamentary democracy is a form of government in which the executive branch derives its legitimacy and authority from the legislature or parliament and is accountable to it. In a parliamentary democracy, the government is elected by the people and the head of government, or the prime minister, is usually the leader of the majority party in the lower house of parliament. And in Australia's parliament consists of 2 houses, the House of Representatives or lower house and the Senate or upper house. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about role of the monarch as head of state. The current monarch, King Charles III serves as the head of state of Australia. The monarch's duties are largely ceremonial and symbolic, representing the unity and continuity of the state. While the monarch's role is largely ceremonial, it holds significant symbolic value in maintaining the tradition and heritage of the nation. The Governor General, appointed by the monarch on the advice of the Prime Minister, acts as the monarch's representative in Australia. The Governor General's responsibilities include giving royal assent to legislation passed by Parliament, appointing the Prime Minister, and performing various ceremonial duties. The role of the monarch through the Governor General provides a sense of continuity and stability in the governance of Australia. It ensures that there is always a clear and lawful authority to carry out the functions of the state, even during times of political change or uncertainty. Okay, so what's the difference between a government system in Australia and Indonesia? While in Indonesia operates as a presidential representative democratic republic, the president of Indonesia is both the head of state and the head of government, holding significant executive powers. The president is elected by popular vote for a 5-year term and can serve a maximum of 2 terms. The president appoints the cabinet, which is responsible for the day-to-day governance of the country. Indonesia's legislative branch is bicameral, consisting of the People's Consultative Assembly or Majelis Permusyawaratan Rakyat (MPR), which includes the Regional Representative Council or Dewan Perwakilan Daerah atau DPD, and the People's Representative Council or Dewan Perwakilan Rakyat or DPR. The MPR has the authority to amend the constitution and inaugurate the president. The judiciary is independent and includes various courts, with the Supreme Court being the highest judicial authority.
So I'm here to explain about Australia's government structure and level government in Australia. So the first is Australia's government structure. Australia's government structure follows a system of constitutional monarchy and democratic parliament. The government consists of 3 main branches, which is legislative, executive, and judicial. So the first one is executive. Executive is the role of the Prime Minister, Cabinet, and Governor General. The first point is Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is the head of government and the leader of the majority party in the House of Representatives. The Prime Minister sets government policy, leads the cabinet, represents Australia in international affairs, and makes key decisions on national matters. The Prime Minister is appointed by the Governor General following elections or changes in party leadership. The second one is Cabinet. The Cabinet consists of senior ministers selected by the Prime Minister. Each minister oversees a specific department, such as health, education, or defense. The cabinet meets regularly to discuss and decide on government policy, legislative initiative, and national issues. Ministers are responsible for implementing cabinet decisions within their departments. And the last one is Governor General. The Governor General acts as the Queen's representative in Australia and performs various ceremonial and constitutional duties. These duties include giving royal assent to bills passed by Parliament, appointing the Prime Minister, summoning and dissolving Parliament, and representing Australia at official functions. The Governor General acts on advice of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. And we move to the second one is legislative. Legislative is the Australian Parliament, or two chambers, House of Representatives and Senate. The first point is House of Representatives. Also known as the lower house, the House of Representatives is composed of members elected from various constituencies across Australia. The House introduces and debates most legislation, especially budget on financial bills. The party with the majority of seats forms the government, and its leader becomes the Prime Minister. The House votes on proposed laws, which must pass both the House and the Senate to become law. The second point is Senate. Known as the upper house, the Senate provides equal representation for states and territories. Each state elects 12 senators, and each territory elects 2 senators. The Senate reviews, amends, and sometimes rejects bills passed by the House of Representatives. It acts as a check on government power, ensuring that legislation is truly scrutinized and represents the interests of all states and territories. And the third point is judiciary, the court system and the role of the Supreme Court of Australia. The first point is Supreme Court of Australia. The highest court in Australia, also known as the High Court, has the authority to interpret the Constitution and make final decisions on legal disputes. The High Court reviews cases of national significance and hears appeals from lower courts. Its decision set precedents that guide the interpretation and application of the law throughout the country. The second point is federal courts. These include the Federal Court of Australia and the Family Court of Australia. The Federal Court handles matters related to federal law, such as trade practices, industrial relations, and immigration. The Family Court deals with family-related cases, including divorce, child custody, and property settlements. The third is State and Territory Courts. Each state and territory has its own court system, which includes Supreme Courts, District Courts, and local courts. These courts handle a wide range of legal matters, from criminal cases to civil. State and territory courts operate independently of the federal judiciary but may have cases appealed to the High Court. And we move to the second topic is level of government in Australia. There are 3 main levels of government in Australia, which is the federal governments and local governments. Each level has specific roles and responsibilities, ensuring efficient governance and meeting the needs of citizens. The first is federal government. The federal government, also known as the Commonwealth Government, governs all of Australia and is responsible for issues that affect the entire country, such as defense, immigration, foreign policy, trade, and taxation. The federal government is based in Canberra, which consists of the Parliament, the executive, and the judiciary. The second is state and territory government. Australia is divided into 6 states and 2 territories. Each with its own government. The states are New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, Western Australia, and Tasmania. The territories are the Australian Capital Territory and the Northern Territory. State and territory governments are responsible for areas such as education, health, transportation, and law enforcement. Each state and territory has its own parliament, headed by a premier or chief minister. And the third is local government. Local government consists of city councils or shire councils that manage local affairs in towns and villages. These include waste management, local roads, public libraries, parks, and recreational facilities. Local governments operate within states or territories and are governed by elected councils. The council is led by the mayor or president of the council, depending on the size of the area. There are several responsibilities undertaken by local government, such as waste management and environmental cleanliness, urban planning and development, maintenance of local roads and public facilities, provision of parks, libraries, and community centers, and regulation of small business licenses and local markets. And also, I'll explain about the difference between the government structure in Indonesia and Australia. The government structure of Indonesia and Australia has several similarities and differences, especially in the form of government, political system, and division of power. Here is the comparison. The first is form of government. Indonesia is a republic with a presidential system of government, and Australia is a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary system of government. The second is head of state and head of government. Indonesia is led by the president, is both head of state and head of government elected directly by the people. In Australia, the head of state is the King of England, represented by the Governor General, while the head of government is the Prime Minister elected by the Parliament. And the third is political system. In Indonesia, adheres to the Pancasila democracy system with a separation of executive, legislative, and judicial powers. In Australia, adheres to the parliamentary democracy system with close relations between the executive and legislative. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Major political parties in government and political system in Australia. Liberal Party of Australia on conservative centre-right. The Liberal Party of Australia is one of the largest political parties in the country. Ideologically, the party is more centre-right and conservative. They support free market policies, tax reduction, and strengthening the private sector. The party also tends to emphasize the importance of national security and strict immigration policies. On the social front, they favor a more traditional approach to family and social values. In general, they also tend to reduce the role of government in the economy and favor policies that encourage individual freedom. In Indonesia would be parties like Partai Golongan Karya or Golkar, Partai Amanat Nasional or PAN, which tend to support market-driven policies, economic growth, and maintain national security. These parties often advocate for a more conservative approach to social and family values. Australian Labor Party or Social Democrat Centre-Left. The Australian Labor Party or ALP is a party with social democratic ideology that tends to be on the centre-left of Australia politics. The ALP focuses on the social justice protection of workers' rights and equitable distribution of wealth. They support more inclusive economics policies, including better access to health, free or affordable education, and strong social welfare policies. On the environment, the ALP supports progressive measures to address climate change and is committed to protecting the environment. This is similar to the Partai Demokrasi Indonesia Perjuangan (PDIP), which is a major political force with a social democratic ideology. PDIP focuses on the social welfare program, poverty eradication, and workers' rights. 2. They also emphasize nationalism and state-led development. The Nationals are usually in coalition with the Liberal Party. The National is a party that is more focused on the interests of rural areas in Australia. They tend to have conservative ideology and are often in coalition with a Liberal Party in government. Their main focus is on agricultural issues, rural infrastructure, and regional economic development. National are often champion policies that support Australia agricultural sector and natural resource-based industries. The closest comprehension might be Partai Kebangkitan Bangsa or PKB, which is influential in rural areas and advocate for the agricultural sector. PKB also supports regional development and traditional values. The next one is the Greens, or focus on the environmental and social progressive. The Greens are a party that focuses on environmental issues, social justice, and human rights. They tend to have progressive position on social policy and are more concerned about climate change. environmental protection, and minority rights. The Greens' right to reduce carbon emissions and push for renewable energy policies. They also support more open and inclusive migration policies. In Indonesia, Partai Hijau Indonesia or Green Party of Indonesia will be the closest counterpart. However, it is a similar party compared to the Greens in Australia. Environmental issues are also gaining more attention among Indonesian political parties, though the Green Party is still a niche player in comprehension. Immigration policy. Australia has a strict immigration policy, especially when it comes to regulation for refugees and asylum seekers. The government often maintains a political that limits the number of refugees that can enter the country and places them in processing centers overseas. The policy is controversial as it is considered to violate human rights. However, some parties such as the Greens and ALP supports are more open immigration policy that refuses on protecting human rights and integrating refugees. In Indonesia, immigration policy is also strict, but the country is often a transit point for refugees rather than the primary destination. Indonesia is not a signatory to the 1951 Refugee Convention, and the government tends to limit refugee settlement. However, Indonesia has shown more flexibility in accepting refugees for countries like Afghanistan and Myanmar in the past. Progressive political parties such as the Partai Demokrasi Indonesia Perjuangan or PDIP may support more inclusive policies, though this remains the sensitive and complex issue in Indonesia politics. Environment and climate change policy. Climate change is a major issue in Australia. The country faces more challenges related to bushfire, drought, and rising temperatures. The Greens and ALP supports ambitious policies to reduce the carbon emissions and increase the use of renewable energy. On the other hand, parties such as the Liberal Party are more conscious about implementing climate change policies that could impact economic sectors such as mining and forest energy. Indonesia also faces significant environmental challenges, including deforestation, air pollution, and climate change impact like floods and forest fires. The Partai Demokrasi Indonesia Perjuangan or PDIP and other progressive parties supports efforts to address climate change through renewable energy, though Indonesia economic reliance on palm oil mining and coal creates a balancing act. The government has committed to reducing carbon emissions and transitioning to cleaner energy, but policies are often shaped by the needs of the country resource-based economy. And the last one is Australia's relation with other countries. Australia has complex foreign relations, especially with countries in the Asia-Pacific region. The country has close diplomatic ties with the United States, especially in terms of defense and trade. On the other hand, relations with the countries like China are also important, as Australia depends on exporting natural resources to China. However, these relationships have been strained in recent years over trade and foreign policy issues. In this regard, Australia's foreign policy is influenced by strategic, economic and defense interests, which include alliances with Western countries and active involvement in international organizations such as the UN and ASEAN. Indonesia has strategic position in Southeast Asia and plays key role in regional and global diplomacy. It has strong relations with neighboring Asian countries as well as strategic ties with United States, Japan and China. Indonesia also maintains the neutral stance in international politics, focusing on its role as a moderator and as a member of ASEAN, the G12, and other organizations. Indonesia's foreign policy is influenced by its desire to maintain regional stability, economic growth, and its role as bridge between the East and West.